Well, hey there, everybody. It's still, middle end of March. It's March 22nd. The baseball season hasn't started yet, but we're in spring training. And this is a great time to start going through the process of how do you update the MLB algorithm every day. So this is a longer video. This is not a video for anyone who's interested in predictions for the day. It's a video that is really focused on the inner workings of the MLB algorithm and understanding what all the sheets do and understanding the update process, which is a dynamic updating process. It's not the same every day. The update process is different depending on what part of the season we're in, which is why I'm starting this right here in spring training. So this will be a video series. We'll call this video number 1 of updating the MLB algorithm for 2023. It's not even going to get completely done for the day, and you'll see why, because I'm going to end the video when I tell you kind of some of the work that I'll have to do after we've done everything we can kind of set up and start to begin with. So let's talk about what you would do if you open up the file for the day and you're like, all right, it's 6:40 p.m. I think a lot of these games have already ended. I sold a couple of these today. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you. I know Tom's purchasing one. Thank you. Somebody else bought one too. Can't remember your name right now. Is it Jeff or something? So the point is, it made me want to focus on teaching you how to do this. So you open up the file and a lot of these games have already happened. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? First thing you need to do is freeze your records from the previous day. So we're going to start with the data cube, which is one of the most important sheets in this file because it feeds all your predictions for the day. So the data cube has some dark areas with formulas in here. Okay, these are formulas you're not going to change. It's got an area with the date for the current day's date or the date of the games that are in here. And everything that's got a clear background, white background, is actually a formula over here. Or sorry, is a formula connected to the matchup sheet, which is your setup for the day. So when I say the first thing you want to do for the day is freeze your history, I'm talking about freezing this area right here. All these games that you've already recorded for the previous day, we're going to freeze them because they're formulas. If you look inside these cells, they say matchups, C3, matchups, whatever. They're talking to the matchups sheet. So I highlighted this area all the way down to the last game that we had put in for yesterday, the 21st. We're going to copy this rectangle that we've just highlighted. See the entire area highlighted right here? Copy it and then paste it as values. So you're turning it into values. And now you've frozen the history for the previous day. And that's great. Now we're going to start entering in information for a new day for today, 22nd. What are we going to connect to it? We're going to start in this first available cell right here in column J, and we're going to equal sign, and we're going to go to the matchup sheet, and we're going to go to this first cell of C3 right here. And then we're going to just pull this formula over and pull it down, and we'll pull it down a long way. We'll pull it down at least, it just doesn't really matter how far you pull it down as long as you pull it down enough so that you can handle any games that might be in here for the day. And we don't know how many games are going to be in here for the day yet. I'll show you how we're going to get there. But now you've just reconnected this new area, right? Like we froze all these stats. So this is all frozen. You can kind of gray this out, or I'll write a formula behind these cells so that you know. I'll make it actually a yellow formula that shows you that you've frozen the stuff. And that's good because you want to leave that frozen history in there because we're going to use it when we look at historical days for when we're calculating streaks that teams are on, is we need to look at their actual history. It's also really helpful for testing the variables and comparing them to the history when you freeze the history. So you've frozen the prior day, and any prior games have now been frozen. And we've now connected to a new day, even though we don't have those new days games in there yet. So what do we do now? Well, here's what we do. We look at what the odds are. These are the odds from yesterday. We don't need those odds. We're going to clear out the odds from column L to column V or whatever. Now, here's the interesting part about starting in the middle of the day. Let's go to grab the odds from RotoWire, because you're going to need a subscription to RotoWire to get the stats that you're going to need. We're going to go into sports betting and baseball. And you're going to notice that if there are any games left to be played today, their odds will be showing. But Yeah, there's still 2 games here. So we can grab this, but it's only going to have 2 games in here. And there are other games that happened for the day. So how are we going to get information about those games? And I'll show you a little tricky way to do that, because we also need to grab the lineups for the day, and that's where we're going to get it from. So now you go to fantasy sports, even though we've got those odds there, which I'm not going to open up for a second because I want to show you what else we're going to do first. We're going to go to fantasy MLB, and we're going to lineups right here and daily lineups. Now, this is not actually an export. It's going to be, you're going to copy this entire page in your browser. And you're using Google Chrome, will work. I think it will work with other browsers as well, but I'm not sure. So you're really going to want to be in Google Chrome to get this to work. But let me show you where we're going to put this. We're going to go into the lineup sheet. We have an area for where we're going to paste all those lineups. It's right here in column L. So I just cleared all the contents, or I pressed the delete button, even though you don't want to delete this column because that's going to screw everything up. Don't do this. Don't delete. You want to clear contents. Get rid of everything here. Now we're going back to RotoWire, and we're copying. Control A highlights everything. Control A. Control C copies everything you've just highlighted. You just did Control A for all and Control C for copy. And now you right click on cell L1 and you paste this as match destination formatting. And you've now pasted all the lineups. Now this area over here is a blue area, is a pivot table. And this is the pivot table that's connected to all this information here. So you right click in here and you choose refresh. Now all of a sudden we've got the teams and the rosters and everything already in here. Great. Great. Now, let me show you what we're going to do with this, because we wanted to add all the odds in here, right? We wanted to add all the odds. We don't have the ability to do that because all the odds are not available anymore because the game started and many of them are over. However, what you can do here is you can collapse this entire field right at the pitcher level, and you can get all your pitchers and your teams. So we're going to paste the pitcher right here. And the team needs to go over here. Grab the team. I'm going to put the team over here. All right. And all these, I'm not going to worry about the times of these games, but they're all on the date of 3/22. So I'm manually typing, March 22nd in here. All right. Now, something interesting has happened is we have some errors over here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to override the team, because the team name appears differently when you download the odds from RotoWire. Let me show you what that's like. So let's go back to this download, which you can't see the download that I'm opening up because I haven't shared that screen, but I'm going to open it up. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to show you where it goes. So there's only 2 games that have appeared that hadn't started yet. It starts at the Padres game, which is right here. So watch what happens when I paste that information that we just grabbed from RotoWire right here. Notice how you get more information. You get lines, right? You get lines. The team appears as Padres instead of San Diego. And I'm pulling this formula back up because it's going to work when we do that. So the team name is correct because I pasted over the team name, but this formula is generally what you're going to want to use because it's going to convert Padres to SD, and it's going to work correctly. So normally, if you can get all the odds before the games have started, you're just going to export them and you're going to paste them like right in here. But we don't have all that information. So we're going to give everybody a line of -110. Just because it's going to prevent any profitability errors from showing up, even though their lines are not -110. We're going to put everybody's line in at -110. We're not going to worry about over-unders or anything like that. But we basically have now a full list of all the games that are today. And notice this will number the games for you and it'll show you how many games you have on this list today. We have 14 games. That's what that says right here. So there are 14 games. Now, let's go back to the lineup sheet and let's expand this out again because we don't need it collapsed. We need it expanded, expand the entire field so that we can show all the rostered players. And I'll show you what we're going to do with all the rostered players in a minute. Well, first, because we've now put all the odds in, right? Let's put this in order. You go to the data cube first and you freeze your history, right? That's number one. You freeze your history and you connect the data cube to the matchup sheet, right? That we've already done that. Then you put in the odds. So we've now put in the odds. Now let's go over to the matchup sheet and we need to have 14 games in here. 14 games will be a full list. Right now we're at 13 games. And don't let me get you started on what you have to do when there are rainouts and you have to remove a game from this list, because that gets even more complicated. Let's assume there are no rainouts and that we don't have to change the order of the games. But we need to get 14. Now here's what you have to do is you have to highlight this entire row set in twos. It's 2 rows at a time that you need to copy when you pull this down. 1, 2. And this will give us our 14th game. The game numbering is occurring right here in column B. Right? So now we have 14 games. We have a bunch of errors, but we do have 14 games in here. Next thing you can do, P stat year. This is related to the pitcher stats from a specific year that you're using. We're going to assume that everyone's going to use 2022 stats if we can. So I'm putting 2022 in next to every single pitcher, right? So we're using just 2022 stat year because hopefully we will be able to. Next thing you do, remove all the final scores from yesterday. Okay, so we got rid of final scores from yesterday. So now, all right, we're starting to look like something. We got 14 games, but everything is a disaster and there are errors everywhere. Well, why are there errors everywhere? Let's find out. So let's go pitcher by pitcher. Michael Soroka. Was he on Atlanta last year? Let's look at his name and let's go to the pitchers sheet. And let's search his name. He's not in here. He's not in here. Why is he not in here? Well, now here's where we start to have to do some research. Let's look him up. We could just click his name next to Atlanta. He's right here. Let's see where he pitched last year, or if he pitched last year. When we click on him, no timetable, or he was injured. Does he have no stats at all? Oh no, it's loading. So he was in AAA last year. All right. AAA, 24 years old, 5 games. He pitched 21 innings. He was 0-2 with a 6.43 ERA and a 1.29 whip. Guess what you have to do for every single pitcher that doesn't have any stats for last year? Guess what you have to do? You have to add stats for them. So we're going to add him to the bottom. You want to grab his streamline name from RotoWire. He's on Atlanta. He was 24 years old. I believe there was 5 games. See if I can remember everything correctly. 5 games. 5 games started. I know he was 0-2. And you can see these are the only columns that we actually care about. We care about innings pitched, win-loss, ERA, and whip, and also what league he played in. He was AAA. And he's 21 innings pitched, 6.43, 129. 21, 6.43, 1.29 whip. And now you have a complete, or at least complete enough set of stats for Soroka in AAA last year. So now in your matchup sheet, he's still showing up as an error. The way to get rid of that error is we're not using 2022 stats for him. We're using AAA stats for him. So as soon as you put AAA in here, you get his stats and you're notified that you're using AAA stats for him because it's relevant when you're looking at this list to understand what kind of stats you're using for this pitcher. You're using AAA stats. So that's how we update that. Let's try the next person. Hopefully we don't have to update stats for everybody, but this is the pitcher process, which stinks right now in at the beginning of the year because there's so many pitchers that are being tried out that have changed teams, that never pitched in the pros before. And that's why this takes so long early in the season. Mackenzie Gore was a pitcher last year. He's not on San Diego anymore. Who's he play for now? Plays for the Washington Nationals. So we're going to change his last year's team to Washington, and that's going to fix him real fast. So now we've got stats for him. Taijuan Walker used to play for the Mets, right? Taijuan. He's now on Philadelphia. So let's go find him and move him to Philadelphia, which is what we've just done. He's fixed. Yaro Solis. Let's look and see if that guy pitched at all last year. Nope. And that's probably going to be one that we're going to have to add. So there you go. You're pasting. He's on Houston. We got to look him up, right? So this is the process that we're going to go through. This is why this takes a while. But it does get better as the season progresses. It gets a lot easier because you start to identify. He's just a single A pitcher from 2018. Oh my goodness. 13, 11. He was an 18-year-old kid. Now he's getting a start. Interesting. I mean, it's almost not worth it, but we'll do it anyway. 13, 11. This is single A. I almost want to put 2018 in there because that's so long ago. 50 innings pitched, 2 and 5, 3.35. Innings pitched, 2 and 5, 3.35, and his whip is 1.61. Okay. So in order to get him to not be an error, you have to put single A in here. Now, don't let it autofill the triple A. It's single A, and now you have his stats in there. Kodai Senga. I don't recognize that name. And we got another person to add. Okay. Kodai Senga is on the Mets, and we're going to look him up. You can see the process. I know we're taking a while, but I really want to kind of explain every little aspect of getting pitchers right, because your pitchers are going to break the file and you're not going to be able to get any predictions until you get all of your pitchers correct. And if a pitcher changes at the last minute and you haven't adjusted for it, you're going to start to see the errors. And so it's important to, where's this Mets game? This game get rained out? Where's the Met game? There it is. Senga. He pitched in where? Where did he pitch? No stats at all? Kidding? He's got projections. I mean, I don't know how much to count those projections, but there's no stats in here. Jeez. So if you just want a quick fix, I'm gonna grab, Yairo Solis's stats and call everything single A for somebody that we don't know, just because we got to move on here. Like, we don't have all day, right? And it's not going to matter. These games are already over anyway. So it's going to be important. Yep, fixed. Now, here's another issue. That's Jordan Montgomery. His name is not expanded. This is abbreviated. We can't have that. We need to have his full name in here. So let me explain where to fix that. This is, you have to fix it in 2 different places. They've abbreviated his name. His name is Jordan Montgomery. So we want the full Jordan Montgomery to appear in both the odds sheet right here. And this is the real tricky one, which is you also need to adjust the lineups pivot as well. So when you copy his name, go over to the lineups pivot, and Jordan Montgomery is going to show as J Montgomery here, most likely. And you want to override that with Jordan Montgomery. And unfortunately, it doesn't remember that from week to week. It's supposed to remember the pivot table, but it just doesn't for some reason. And when you refresh, it doesn't remember that. So you have to make that adjustment every time they have an abbreviated name. Now, that did fix itself once we did that. So Jordan Montgomery is fixed. Ryan Yarbrough, that sounds like a trade. See who he's playing for now. He is on Kansas City now instead of Tampa Bay. He's fixed. Clevenger used to be on Cleveland, right? Now he's on the White Sox. Let's find out. He's on the White Sox now. He was moved from San Diego to the White Sox, I guess. Fixed. Clevenger's fixed. Nathan Eovaldi, I think he used to be on Boston, right? And now he's on Texas. See how you get to learn where everybody got traded. That's what's pretty cool about this, is you really get to see all the changes and you know who's like pitching for the first time for a new team. It's good to know. Ross Stripling, I recognize that name. He is on San Francisco now. All right, got that one. And Seth Lugo used to be a Met, I believe, and now he's going to be on San Diego. Yep. not San Francisco, San Diego. And I believe, look at that. We have now got all the pitchers correct, and you'll notice that the projected scores and all the errors just fixed themselves. So this is what I would call the poor man's version of the file right now. You fixed all the pitchers, so you've got enough in here to get some raw predictions. However, it's not the best that it can be for the day. It's not even close. The lineup factors are not complete. Lineup factors, some of these lineup factors look really, 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 really low. And that's because they're missing a bunch of people. So we're not going to talk about importing batting and pitching stats for the new year because there is no new year stats yet. 2023 hasn't started. So that's going to be for the videos once the season starts. But there is a process of bringing in stats and bringing in team pitching and bringing in team batting. These 4 sheets have to get updated stats every day. But we will talk about that when the season starts because you can't do anything about it yet. We're using last year's stats right now. But our lineups do need to be worked on. Our lineups are in a matrix. So what's going on here? Well, anywhere where there is an error here in these 2 columns represents something wrong with the lineup. And it shows up not just here in these columns of the lineup sheet, but it also shows up in our batting pivot, which is another way that you can easily check this. So you refresh the batting pivot sheet and you get all the games for the day and you get whether or not we have somebody in a roster spot. So like we've got everybody on Texas. Actually, Texas probably had 2 games today. That's why that's showing. We've got everybody there, but we've got 2 players in the same spot sometimes. So some of these players might have been traded. So let me explain how you diagnose and fix this. First, you start with the lineup sheet. And you're generally just going to go right down the list. There won't be hundreds and hundreds of errors once you get the file from me at the beginning of the year, because I'll have made all these changes throughout spring training. So the adjustments to all these errors, there won't be as many errors every day. There'll probably be like 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 at the most. There's not going to be 30 or 40 like there is right now. Well, who's Forrest Wall and what's going on here? It says we do not have Forrest Wall on Atlanta, and we don't have him in the database. So we need to take his name of Forrest Wall and we need to add him to the matrix. So when you grab the name that's showing up right here in this roster name, okay, this is where the name is actually coming from RotoWire in terms of their lineup. Grab that name, you go to the matrix sheet and you paste it right here. He's on Atlanta, right? Is that the team? And this is his abbreviated name. And his abbreviated name happens to be his full name. So in this instance, they didn't abbreviate his name on the list. So once we did that, Forrest Wall, you put his name here, you put the team here, and the abbreviated name goes there. That's how that works. Go back to the lineup sheet. He's now fixed. He's now in here. Probably doesn't have any stats for the previous year, so he's showing up as 0 because he probably didn't play it all in 2022. He's a brand new player, but it is at least working. Let's do this one. Ryan Castile, also on Atlanta. And his name is the same right here. Okay. Fixed. Sam Hilliard. Now here's one where there's an error, but not an error here. Okay. So there's not an error in the match check, but there is an error in the player team combo. You know what that means? That means that he probably got traded. So Sam Hilliard is according to RotoWire right now. He's on Atlanta. So we're going to look for his name in the matrix. We found it. He was on Colorado last year. He's now on Atlanta, which means not only do we need to change it in the matrix, we also need to change it in the batter's pivot. Because his last year's stats, we want them to be related to Atlanta and not Colorado, even though he played on Colorado last year. He got traded to Atlanta. So for this to work, we need to fix both. And we have, and now he's no longer an error here. And we have his 21% contribution now showing. Andy Ibanez was probably not on Detroit last year. Let's find him. He was on Texas last year. So let's change him to Detroit. And we go into the batter's pivot. And we change him to Detroit. Get it? See how this is working now? Go back to lineup sheet. What else we got? We got Joey Menenses. Uh-oh. Joey Menenses. He's on some team. His name's not abbreviated. So we can put his name in both of these columns because it's not abbreviated. I haven't shown you what an abbreviated name is and how to look for one. We're going to do that in a second. We get to one. Lineups. He's on Washington now. So that is his team is Washington. And he didn't play, or maybe he did play last year. Yeah, it looks like he did play last year. He must have come in later. So here's one where we've got an abbreviated name. This is great because I'll show you how to do an abbreviated name. So this is A. Garcia is on Philadelphia. Well, let's talk about that. That's a very common name. Like Garcia is a very common last name. So we're going to copy this and we're going to add it right here. Bottom, abbreviated name. Now notice this shows up in pink. So this means that we have the abbreviation A. Garcia already existing in our abbreviated lineup matrix here. So we already have an A. Garcia. Do we have the right A. Garcia is the question. This A. Garcia is on Philadelphia. Well, who are the A. Garcias that we have? We are going to highlight and show just the A. Garcias. There are many A. Garcias. There's Aramis, Avisail, and Adolis. Well, we don't know who this is. So here's how we find out. We go into the lineups sheet here on RotoWire, the lineups tab, and we find the A. Garcia that is being referenced, and it will tell us. So this is on Philadelphia, and it's right here. And the answer is, it's Aramis. So Aramis has been traded. So you know what that means? We already have him in here. He's not on Cincinnati anymore. He's on Philadelphia now. So we don't need to add this record in again. Okay. We don't, because we already have Aramis Garcia in here. So we also, though, need to change him in the batter's pivot and put him on Philadelphia. Philadelphia. And now that's fixed. And then I'm going to unfilter everything in a lineup sheet. And everything should be good. I'm going to go back to the lineup sheet and we'll see that he's probably fixed. Yep, he's fixed and he's got a 15% rating. So we'll do one more because I'm not going to make this video forever as I go through every single player. But once we get them all right, notice how the batting pivot is going to start to fill itself in. Well, I mean, take a snapshot, look at this real quick and watch some of these blanks are going to get filled in. A couple of them just got filled in and moved around a little bit. That's because we're cleaning up all those rosters. And that is basically really all you have to do. Once you get the batting order pivot completely clean for the day, then you have everybody. But notice this is how long it takes this early in the season and why I wasn't able to get this done this morning because it's like I said, it's like an hour of work to get this updated every day because of all the changes. So I hope that explains kind of the inner workings of the lineup sheet, how it connects to the matrix, right? Like, what do we do here? What do we do with Manchin? What do we do with this guy? Well, do we already have him in our list? I think we do. I think he changed teams. So let's paste him in here. Let's see if he turns pink. He did turn pink. So he's on a different team. So we're just going to search for that abbreviated name in our list. It's not Mancini. It's, ooh, did I spell it wrong? 1 second. Machin, not Manchin. You know, I do everything wrong. That's why it gets it right, because I do everything wrong. So this is Vimael Manchin, who's not on Oakland anymore. He's now on Philadelphia. So we're going to type in Philadelphia, and we're going to change his team last year in the batter's pivot, the batter sheet, to Philadelphia. Right? And voila, he's now fixed. And that's the process. That's the process. And when it all gets said and done, you'll see these lineup factors are going to start to fill themselves in and be closer to between 2 and 5 or 2 and 6. And you get your predictions. All right. So let's assume we did all the players, even though we haven't finished them yet. As you saw, we have more to do. But let's assume we finished all of them. And this was correct for the day. Well, what happens now? All right. Let's take a look at the data cube because we haven't figured out where all of our games stop. They stop right about here. So we need to bring our new day down all the way to here. This is our 14th game of the day. You can see this is where all the formulas stop. So this is the area that we're going to freeze for tomorrow once we're finished. Now, the cool thing about this is if you're looking at predictions for the day, it's now all connected. You just go to the pivot browse sheet and you press refresh and look at today, and it shows you the order of the games that it would have said to pick. It would say that Detroit's supposed to beat Atlanta with a big margin with the lineup they have. It's going to show you profitability based on results, right? So these are the teams that said we're going to win. Now, here's the cool thing. Go to the matchup sheet, and I'm going to look up and see what the scores of these games were. I'm actually going to grab them real quick and get the answer because I want to show you what happens in the pivot browse and how you get to look at your results, because this is kind of the final process for the day. So I'm looking on my phone and I'm going to look at the scores for the games. All right, we'll get them in here real quick. So the Yankees lost to the Nationals 2-5. You got that wrong. Atlanta beat Detroit 5-3, so got that wrong. Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. Philadelphia loses to Tampa Bay. This one was a lot better prediction, 2-6. Baltimore loses to Toronto in a low-scoring game. We had more runs in that game. Houston beats the Mets and flips that score around, gets it wrong. St. Louis is a 0-0 tie. That must have been fun to watch. And Kansas City and the White Sox. Kansas City wins 4-3. Okay. Keep losing games all over the place here. 4-2. The Cubs beat Oakland. White Sox in Texas 0-2. Texas wins that game. It's a split game for Texas. Texas also played San Francisco. And that game is not in here. It says 4 p.m. That game should have happened already. I guess they're not keeping track of those scores. Angels and Rockies. It's 10-9. Didn't have a lot of runs in that game, actually. And then Minnesota and Boston. The Twins. Where are the Twins? That's going on right now, and it's 8-0 Twins. So yeah, spring training is a disaster. I mean, that's why I wasn't worried about getting this done. It is a disaster. But we just got some scores in here. So let's go to the pivot browse and refresh our table. And you'll see that we are 5-5 somehow today. But losing stuff at the top, and it's not working well. Because we haven't fully updated our lineups also. So our scores are screwed up because we got to get our lineup factors correct. And we're missing a lot of things. Like, yeah, anything where it says 0.8, 1.7, like these are not full rosters. It's because we're missing so many guys and they're all minor league guys and we don't know what they're going to contribute and we don't know how long these pitchers are going to. It's a disaster. It's spring training. But that is how you look at this. So you can remove the to be determined games and you can see, this is where we won. This is where we lost. This is the runs we had projected in the final runs in the game. And today it is not doing anything good, but that's okay. It's spring training. So that's the full cycle, right? So when you wake up tomorrow, you put all the scores in here. Once all the scores are finished, what do? You're going to freeze your historical day right here. You're going to copy this and freeze it. You're going to start with a new date down here. You're going to reconnect this to the matchup sheet, right, for the new day right here. And pull that down. Press that. And then you start the whole process over again for the new day. Right? And that is how you start. So that's the cycle right there. That's the cycle of kind of getting it ready. And you can see where you're going to spend a lot of time early on, which really I'm spending a lot of time. You will not have to do a ton of player adjustments every day once I get this rolling here at the beginning of the season, because it's just going to be new people every day. It's not going to be all the roster changes from the entire year. That's all going to get sorted out right about the start of the season, because I'm updating all these every day and we're seeing them in spring training. So that's update video number 1. There will be more updates coming as we continue. And it's not really doing much today for spring training because it's still spring training and it's a mess. All right. Good luck, everybody. That's how to update the MLB algorithm. I hope your picks won today. And I hope you have a fun baseball season going forward. Good luck.